Hello everyone and welcome. This is Muhammad Said and you are watching ELT Issues. And in today's episode, we will try to discuss that question, and we will show some of the arguments, some of the researches and the studies that try to answer this question. Can a non-native English speaking teacher reach the linguistic competence of a native English speaking teacher? Now, let me just start by going to one of the greatest books in the field and major that I really recommend for every teacher or teacher trainer who's really interested in that field, which is The Non-Native Teacher by Peter Medgyes. Okay, let me just start by showing the beginning of the issue here. Noam Chomsky in 1965 has highlighted that only native speakers of a language could be reliable sources of linguistic information regarding this language. And that was quite frustrating because it got many other non-native speakers to the point that they felt they are challenged. But then we noticed that there are some scholars and researchers and authors who argued Chomsky's idea, like publications by great linguists like Paikeday in 1985, Davies in 1991, and they claimed that the true native speaker doesn't really exist, and the term shouldn't be used when describing any linguistic or pedagogical competences. That's why they said you should actually use the term proficient speaker. You should use multi-competent speaker, near native speaker. That was quite interesting. And Sylvie in 2014 noted that in many countries in the world, non-native English speaking teachers get some kind of discrimination. They don't feel that they are treated the same. They don't get the same treatment. And then Peter Medgyes started by defining the native speaker and making the kind of points that we as non-native speakers might feel the gaps that we as non-native speakers might have. So he started by pointing to Ulate in 2011, who described the native speaker as the one who possessed these following characteristics. Number one, the subconscious knowledge of rules, the intuitive grasp of meanings, the ability to communicate within social settings, the range of language skills, the creativity of language use, the identification with a language community, the ability to produce fluent discourse, the knowledge of differences between their own speech. And Ulate actually presented a very interesting frame, and in that frame he called the figure as the inter-language continuum. And the inter-language continuum is like an arrow that begins with all the linguistic competence of the non-native English speaking teachers, the non-natives, and once it's done, it will reach the native speakers level. However, there are some non-natives whom we call the pseudo-native speakers who are outperforming some of the natives. They can reach the native level, but they will not surpass or outperform the high linguistic competent native speakers. So he also refers to Davies in 1991, who admits that it's impossible for the non-natives to outperform the native who spent much of the first 5 or 6 years of his life acquiring the first language. That's the big difference. And here comes the definition of the pseudo-native speakers. So the pseudo-native speakers are like the native alike. They are very close to native speakers. And they actually referred to some of the list that we might notice the linguistic features that are likely to give pseudo-native speakers away. These are the linguistic features. Number 1, we are most frequently and easily recognized by pronunciation. So if we ever travel to an English-speaking country, we might be recognized. And this is what Kachru defined as the accent bar in his book in 1982. So the accent bar is when you travel to one of the English-speaking countries, people might notice that you are not a native of this country. The second characteristic, that we as non-native in general, we have a lower or higher level of idiomaticity than average. So if we imagine that some non-native speakers, they try to impress the natives, or they try to show their linguistic competence by saying more than usual of the idioms, while some others will try to just neglect the idioms and not really use much of them. That's the second characteristic. And he also referred to the third characteristic, that we have gaps in the conceptual knowledge usually acquired by children during their linguistically most formative years. For example, we're not aware of the games that the children had when they were young, when they were in the early years, the stories, the nursery songs, the environment. So that will get the non-natives into a gap that we have, that we don't know what they actually experienced. The fourth characteristic he referred to is the use of repetitions and routines language less efficiently, which was mentioned by Firth in 1957. So what we actually miss in our conversational situation is not the message content, but the ritual of the conversation. So basically, if we have a balance, if there is a balance between transactional language and interactional language, then we as non-natives might tilt more into the transactional language. So basically, while we're having conversation, we focus more on presenting, delivering, receiving the information. But some others the natives are more likely to enjoy the parts of the interactional language. So it's not really a challenge. While for many other non-natives, it might be a challenge. This is the transactional, the way of receiving and delivering information in the speech, while the interactional is while having small talks or having talks or even the entertainment of the conversation itself. The fifth characteristic that Peter Medgyes mentioned, that non-native English speaking teachers are less aware of the context at large. So they have gaps in certain situations. it could be slips in register. So basically, if you ever travel to one of the English-speaking countries, you might notice that native speakers, if you ever go to order one of the meals, that they might have some short terms or like words that they use to describe particular food, particular meals. So if you are a native speaker, you'll be easy getting what they mean. But if you're not, you might be challenged. The sixth and last characteristic that he referred to is that non-est are less coherent and consistent both in their own language use and in the judgment of people's language. And this is one of the issues that can really relate into the ELT, because you might have a problem with the error correction for your students. And Peter Medgyes referred to one of his colleagues who's a pseudo-native speaker, that she told them, I still have confusion, I still mix up the same to you and you too when I have quick responses. So if someone's saying to me like Merry Christmas, would you say you too, or would you say the same to you? That got her to be confused. So basically, if we would try to find what is the main point that can define the non-native speakers, the main 2 points is how the non-natives are motivated. So if they are motivated to use the language, if they are motivated to use that language, then they're about to acquire more, they're about to reach the high linguistic competence. And then that will also guide us to divide the non-natives into two different groups. The first group is the group who are just using English as an instrument. So they might be just engaging with foreigners. They are not actually interested that much in using English in a major medium. And the second group, who is the non-est, as we are interested in using English as a medium, as a major medium. So basically, that will show the difference. Thank you very much, and that was our talk today, and I will see you next time. Bye.